The 1920s, also known as the Roaring Twenties, was a period of time that happened right after World War I. People all over the world were trying to recover from the damage that the war had imprinted on them. With this recovery came a new sense of hope, and people in this generation were constantly thinking new, new, new. With this came new versions of entertainment, more advertising, and then more use of electricity. However, one thing that mainly stood out during this time was the transition from the horse and buggies to the many cars roaming the streets instead. Now, what caused the rise of these new cars, and what were those cars like? One specific model of these new, revolutionary cars is what I'll be talking about today, so let's jump straight into it. Cars before the 1920s were generally thought of something that was only intended for the rich. Cars were really expensive back then, but in the 1920s, cars became a lot cheaper. The most popular car back in the day was Model T, which was invented by Henry Ford. Around 1910, when Ford made the car, it would cost about $825 to $850, which is about $23,000 to $26,000 nowadays when you adjust the price for inflation. That was considered cheap for a car then, compared to other cars like the Pierce Arrow models. Ford wanted the car to be simple to use, strong, but most importantly, affordable. This car had so many new features that had not been seen before in other cars. A few of these things were the engine block and the crankcase being one unit, a removable cylinder head which was very easy to access, the strong use of vanadium steel, plus many other nice features. It was super easy to shift gears and super easy to use in general, at least compared to other cars back in the day. The car was also the first car to ever be mass produced, which made the car a lot cheaper and more affordable. In the 1920s, the car would cost on average only $260. That's about $3,500 nowadays, which if you didn't know, is very cheap for a car. However, these cars were not anything like the cars that we use today. For one thing, the car had 3 pedals. One for braking, one for reversing, and then one for the gears. However, there was no gas pedal. A small lever sort of thing that was on the side of the wheel is what made the car accelerate. The car was created to be easy to use, but it still wasn't really near that level. Hannah Elliott, a car enthusiast, went for a test drive one day using the Model T, and she stated that getting the car to move smoothly where you wanted it to go was a very complicated process, which would make sense because the old design didn't really allow smooth turns or anything of that sort. The average horse and buggy speed before cars took over was only about 5 to 8 miles per hour, and the Model T was able to go at a maximum speed of 45 miles per hour if it was going downhill and if like some wind was blowing at it, which is quite an improvement either way. So many people in the 1920s wanted to have the faster transportation, obviously because it would take less time to go to different places, whether it be work, just traveling, or just anything of that sort. This improvement is what caused Henry Ford's success. Ford once said, "There's no use trying to pass a Ford because there's always going to be another one ahead." And he's right about that. If you Google some of the top selling cars, the Ford F-Series is one of the top cars. No matter if Ford becomes less popular, if the company gets overtaken, we should just always remember that the Ford Model T was the one that started it all in the Roaring Twenties. Thanks for watching.